Season. We get our diamond notes from Michigan baseball coach Eric Bakich. They opened up the season last weekend out west. This week, the Keith LeClaire Classic in Greenville, North Carolina, will be their location. Before we get to talking about that, though, we want to reflect upon the weekend that was out in Long Beach, California, with Michigan baseball coach Eric Bakich. Coach Bakich, good morning.
Good morning, Sam. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Glad to hear from you as always. So you guys open up the season on the road like you do every other year, getting out and getting in some warm weather. But you talked about when you get out and you start a new year, a lot of promise, but you actually got to get out there and start to play. In that first contest, Coach, it was reminiscent of some of the games that we saw last year. Nail biters, Coach, that you just failed. Now you look at the way that the opening weekend kind of began and ended, two nail biting games, but one you came out on the short end, the other one you came out on the winning end. Let's start with the first game, 3-2.
Yeah, it's just a game of adjustments, as you know. I mean, you can say that about any sport, but for us, like I talked about last week, we're going out and playing in one of the biggest ballparks in college baseball. I mean, the only park bigger in California is Yosemite National, and we crushed some balls that just off the bat, I think our dugout started celebrating some of the hardest and farthest balls that we've hit my 3 years here. Mm-hmm. And the outfielders simply just ran back and caught it at the fence. And, it's just one of those things where we didn't really make the adjustment of what we needed to do as far as taking what the pitchers were giving us, because it's a, typical West Coast style pitching staff where they throw lots of change-ups, lots of breaking balls, really try to speed you up and slow you down and get you off balance. And we had our opportunities, and we didn't take advantage. We had runners in scoring position with less than 2 outs in the 8th inning to take the lead. And, you give some credit to Long Beach, but we didn't adjust there and struck out a couple of times, and that was an opportunity missed. And, it's one of those games where I think if our pitching staff were to do it over again, we also issued too many free passes, 11 walks in that contest that ended up, those 3 runs ended up, or those 11 walks that ended up accounting for their 3 runs. And so that was tough, but it was, I was proud of the guys, the way they hung with it. I think they came out the next day. Certainly there was not any issues with effort or enthusiasm or their energy or, their aggressiveness. If anything, they were overly aggressive, maybe squeezing the bat a little bit too tight. And, we just got in an early hole in the second game. And then the third game, they showed their toughness. And they just showed that they can take a punch and they can deal with some adversity and get back up when they get knocked down. And they made the adjustments, and they started going the other way with the ball, and they started taking the singles to the opposite field and started to get a little bit more aggressive on the bases and look for ball and dirt reads or look to steal some bases or whatever. And we got off to an early lead thanks to some two-out RBIs, and then they tied it up in the 9th, and our guys didn't waver. And they just were able to score 2 runs in the 10th and beat them in extra innings. So a lot of positives to draw off the weekend for sure, but certainly an opportunity missed, because that's a weekend we'll look back on and say, that was a series that we would have liked to have.
Coach, you mentioned the 11 walks, and I know that's a coaching point for you where you get on your guys so you can't have that many free passes. But the other way, boy, when you walk 11 guys, typically that results in more than three runs. So definitely a sign that your guys were out there battling, led by Brett Adcock in that first game.
Brett pitched very well. He's a guy that he was rehabbing a knee injury that he sustained over the summer, so he didn't even pitch all fall, not once. And so he's really kind of gotten back into form here just in the last couple of months. And so he's a little bit rusty, and but then he gets out there. I'm saying he was rusty just in some of our preseason scrimmages, but then he got out there, and the thing about Brett is he is supremely competitive, and those competitive instincts and juices just took over, and he was dialed in for about 4.5 innings, and then seemed to just just, his pitch count got into around about 80 pitches, just kind of ran out of gas a little bit just because we haven't built up his pitch limit. And but he was lights out for 4.5 innings. He was unhittable and was a great glimpse of what type of pitcher that he can be for us this year.
Yeah, now, Coach, you mentioned going the other way with the ball, and that clearly, you talk about Jacob Cronenworth, game-winning opposite field single, the top of the 10th inning. Not surprising that it came from him, but that was one of the adjustments that you were talking about.
Yeah, and what set that whole thing up really was one of our most consistent leaders, and that's Eric Jacobson. We were able to get a walk and a hit by pitch we got a walk, and then we bunted into a crash bunt defense, and they got the lead out at second. Then Jake Bivens gets hit by a pitch, so we got first and second and one out with Eric Jacobson coming up. And I mean, you know how it is when you're on the road. You gotta be aggressive and take chances and just go for it. And so we put a hit and run on with Eric Jacobson, and sure enough, he got it done. He put the ball on the ground and was able to advance both runners to second and third and stay out of the double play. Just a great baseball play right there, and set the stage for Jacob Cronenworth. Again, where maybe earlier in the weekend, he's trying to, drive the ball in the pull side gap, and now, he's had 10, 12 at-bats under his belt on the weekend, and, he takes what the pitcher gives him. They're throwing, two seamers away and change-ups away, and he just stays on it, and it hits a line drive to the opposite field, and, two-out RBIs right there, which was huge for us.
We're talking to Michigan baseball coach Eric Bakich this morning here on the Michigan Insider on Sports Talk 1050 WTKA, online at WTKA.com. So, Coach, a freshman that was very solid for you guys in that contest, and correct me if I pronounce his name wrong, but Ryan Newtoff, 5 2/3 innings of relief. He was really solid for you guys in that game.
Well, he actually started that game for us, Sam. He won the starting job, and he's a special talent. He's got a good arm, but the thing about him is he seems unfazed. He threw a lot of quality pitches. I mean, our goal for a game is to throw 60% quality pitches, and he was his game. After the game, we looked at it. He was 89% quality pitches, which that's off the charts. That's really high. His strike percentage was good. He just was around the zone. He was throwing it where he wanted to throw it. He had all his pitches going. He's a guy who can throw his fastball, low 90s, and then he's got a good curveball, good changeup, and he's even got a cutter that he can mix in there. And so our entire pitching staff that game did a terrific job. And we got great bullpen relief from a lot of different contributors, and that's just a good team win. Good team win.
Yeah, senior Donnie Eaton got the win for you guys in that contest. So to finish out on a strong note, in a tight game, another one that could have gone either way, a real positive coming out of that first weekend. That brings you into this weekend. And, Coach, before we talk about the opponent that you're going to face in the LeClaire Classic, Keith LeClaire Classic, tell us about Keith LeClaire, because he was a guy that you obviously were very, very familiar with. Tell the fans why.
Well, he was my college coach. Our recruiting coordinator here, Nick Schnabel, and I, we were college teammates together at East Carolina. Played for Keith LeClaire. Coach LeClaire he was a rising star in the college baseball coaching world. He set a record. He was the fastest coach to reach 350 wins under the age of 35. So he was a shooting star in the college baseball world. Coach Schnabel and I had the great fortune of being able to play for him in 99 and 2000, and had tremendous success. And it's not about the 46 wins, the back-to-back championships, the number one seeds in regionals, the top 25 finished. All that stuff's great, but it's about how he developed men and how he made us better people. And he's the type of guy, Sam, that you just, the type of coach you just run through a wall for. Just an incredible motivator. And so he had an even better year. East Carolina had an even better year in 2001. He was having some back problems that year. Long story short, he went to the doctor in August of 2001 after they finished 2 games shy of going to the College World Series. and he got some tests done, and he was diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease, and the disease attacked him very aggressively. With less than a year's time, he couldn't even talk. He couldn't move a muscle. His body is just completely failing him. The only thing he could do was blink. And he was on a ventilator. He was on a feeding tube. He just, he had a wife and 2 young kids. And, so they were able to set him up on his wheelchair with this computer eye gaze machine that shot an infrared laser off of the computer or off of the wheelchair, off of his eye and onto the computer screen. And he was able to, letter for letter, word for word, communicate with anyone who came and visited him. And so, that was our way of communicating with him when we'd go see him. And then he took that to another level, just being the type of guy he is to continue to motivate. And for 5 years, while he battled this disease, he started writing daily devotionals and spreading his message about how his perspective had changed, how it used to always be just baseball, 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 and now through this disease, how he realized that the most important thing in his life was his relationship with God. Number 2 was his family, and then number 3 was baseball. And so he's sharing this message. He's emailing. He's writing articles in the newspaper with this computer eye gaze machine. And so, what he's originally sending these messages to former college baseball players, college coaching colleagues, whatever, and all of us are then forwarding it to our family and friends, and before you know it, he goes from inspiring hundreds of baseball people to thousands of people nationwide, and now there's a book written about him, and just an incredible story. So
wow,
yeah.
Wow.
So before he died, there's 6 of us that told him that we would continue his inspiration, continue his legacy, and wear number 23 in his honor, and that's why we do it. And Coach Schnabel wears 23. I wear 23. There's a few guys around the country. The guy that we'll face on Saturday, Cliff Godwin, the head coach at East Carolina, he was one of our teammates. He's wearing 23, and so it's an incredible story of a coach who inspired, just a great inspiration. And so that's why I do it, as to be able to give all the players that I get the opportunity to coach to hopefully have the same experience that I had, because I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah, Coach. Hadn't heard that story before, but amazingly inspiring and a lesson in perspective, to say the least. The Keith LeClaire and the Keith LeClaire Classic in his honor. The baseball side of things, Coach, you're going to be facing obviously the home team in East Carolina. You have a top 25 team in Liberty that's going to be you're going to be facing on Friday night, and then you close things out with St. John's. Just a few things about those teams.
Well, before we get into that, Sam, one of the things Coach LeClaire taught us is that our opponents are nameless and faceless. So don't think for a second that I'm going to have any sympathy when we face the Pirates.
I hear you, Coach. I hear you.
But yeah, no, we're going into this as it's a one-game tournament right now with Liberty. We're not looking ahead. Liberty's our focus. That's who we're facing on Friday. Good squad, like you mentioned, top 25. They've generated a lot of momentum for their program the last couple of years, being a postseason team. Well coached, good players. Got a veteran team this year. Got a lot of guys back. Their pitching staff is pretty good. They've got a sophomore on the mound on Friday, a kid named Parker Bean that's got a good arm. He'll run it up there 90-92, and he's a guy that's going to challenge us with the fastball. And we're going to be ready. We're going to be a little bit more disciplined in the box and cut down our strikeouts and take what he gives us. And if he's given us pitches to drive, then we'll certainly look to drive him. But if he's not, then we'll battle and adjust as the game goes. But certainly looking forward to it.
All right. Well, Coach, thanks a lot for your time this morning. Just a tremendous story about your former coach. So, outstanding tribute to his legacy that you just gave and that you guys are giving playing this classic in his name. But good luck in the games, because I know that's what it's that's the big deal for you to come back with some victory. So good luck, and then we'll talk to you about it next week.
Sounds great. Thanks, Sam.
All right, thanks a lot. Some powerful stuff this morning from Coach Bakich. I hadn't heard that story before. I knew